Hi, I'm Karan Thapar. Over the last few years, I hope you've been watching my program, The Interview on the Wire. During that period, I've interviewed doctors, politicians, businessmen, scientists, authors, and even the occasional Nobel laureate. For me, it's been exciting. I hope it's been enjoyable for you. But these, as you know, are tough times, and if this program is going to remain bold, independent, and sometimes even defiant, then I think we need your support. At the end of the day, it's a truism, but editorial independence is best defended by the viewers. So if you would like this program to remain the way it is, forthright, outspoken, and interesting, then would you consider supporting us? All you have to do is to click on the description at the bottom. But more than anything else, I hope you will continue to watch the interview. Your viewership means an awful lot to me. Hello and welcome to a special interview for The Wire. Days after my interview with the former head of R&AW, Amarjeet Singh Dulat, went up on The Wire's website on the 24th of April, my guest got in touch with me and said that he disagreed with many things that Mr. Dulat had said and he wanted a chance to refute and rebut them. I readily agreed because that, in fact, is what democracy and free speech is about. So joining me today is a former minister of the Kashmir government and the chairman of the Jammu and Kashmir People's Conference, Sajad Lone. Mr. Lone, let's start with the reason why you contacted me. You said you disagreed with many things that Mr. Dulat had said to me. You wanted a chance to refute and rebut them. So let me begin by asking you, what are the main differences, the main points of disagreement between Mr. Dulat and you?
First of all, let me make it clear, Mr. Dulat is a very, very dear friend and who has been very nice to me. Even during when I started my career, and he was extra nice. And it's not about Mr. Dulat or the person of Mr. Dulat. It's about a setup in Delhi, which has been there for the last 60, 70 years, before Mr. Dulat and after Mr. Dulat. Mr. Dulat is just a symptom of a deep-rooted malaise, which is heavily invested in status quo. Heavily invested in status quo. We live in India in 2023, 1947, say up tak. So many new leaders came. Mamta Banerjee, Lalu Prasad Yadav, Mr. Mulayam Singh Yadav. From the south of India, you had Mr. R.K. Hegde. But in Jammu and Kashmir, which is a part of India, which is a part of South Asia, which is a part of Asia, is a glaring example where there are no new leaders and no new leaders should come up. So my point is that whole thing, that this whole theory that is being propounded here by so-called experts, I will tell you first of all, there is not a single expert in India about Kashmir. And the reason being is, if you look at the report card of Kashmir, in the last 70 or 80 years since 1947, my generation, allow me to speak, my generation, 50% of us have been either jailed, arrested, tortured, or have a court in the case, or have been slapped by a security force, or have been kicked by a security force somewhere. And even today, this is the piece of the graveyard. You're controlling the people. And then you have experts. For what?
Let me put specifically to you the point that Mr. Dulat made, which on the phone you said you disagreed with. Mr. Dulat said that he believes Farooq Abdullah is essential to sort out the problems in Kashmir, and therefore Farooq Abdullah and his national conference must be part of the next government. That is what you disagree with.
Will people decide or Mr. Dulat decide? Isn't it a shame that in 2023, democracy in this studio and in front of a most liberal person has been defined by a person who is not even a voter there? And let me tell you one more
But he's only expressing his opinion as someone who understands Kashmir.
I will quote the last interview, that if elections are fair, then Mr. Abdullah will win. So if he loses, then elections are unfair. And coming from whom? Take it easy, let you hear it from my side today. 1987, who was there? Mr. Dulat was there. Dr. Farooq Abdullah was there.
I'll come to 87 in a moment's time. Let me first try and understand.
87, no Indian wants to
I'll come to
listen
87
about
in a
it.
moment's
That's the
time.
problem.
First, let me try and understand what is the problem with Farooq Abdullah. Is it Farooq Abdullah himself that you have a problem with? Is it the National Conference? Or, as you were suggesting in your first answer, do you believe the time has come for Kashmir to have new leadership and to go beyond the Abdullahs and the Muftis? Which of the three? Or is it all three?
I will tell you something. A problem cannot be the solution. One of the most peaceful places on Mother Earth, Kashmir, in 1986, is converted into a hell and a haven for violence by 1987 elections. And Dr. Abdullah is at the helm, and so is the Congress in Delhi. Now you tell me, if that is when the problem started, and that there is no closure till date, every killing that you see today can be linked directly or indirectly to 1987. So you are telling me that the problem of 1987 and 1989, when it all started, has to be the solution even after 30 years.
For the audience, I need to explain what you mean when you say 87, because many may not be aware what the problem is. 87 was when the National Conference and Congress fought an election in Kashmir in alliance. Many people believe that the result was rigged, and as a result of that, people like Muhammad Yusuf Shah, now better known as Said Salahuddin, Yasin Malik, were wrongly defeated. First of all, tell me, how do you, Sajad Lone, view what happened in 87?
I will tell you, I was young at that time. My father was fighting, right? And 87 was not the only example. There was 83 also.
I'll come to 87.
Right?
First talk about
all
87.
elections were unfair, and apart from 1977, right? But there was degree of, but this was the most audacious rigging.
87.
87 was the most blatant rigging, where simply A won by, say, 5,000 votes, B was declared as the winner. Not only that, then people were jailed, sent under PSA, this draconian PSA, jailed, right? And that's when militancy started. These kids picked up the gun, whom you jailed. And today, even today's government, all the governments have been filling up jails with these kids, but nobody is asking him, why did you have to rig it?
So the rigging of 87 is a major cause of the militancy and the disaffection in Kashmir?
Unambiguously. And I will tell you something, even today, this government, which is supposed to be so proactive on Kashmir, does it talk about 87? No. They will never talk about 87.
You mean the Modi government?
Yeah, are they talking about 87? No, they won't.
Tell me something. Farooq Abdullah wasn't in power during that election. He came to power as a result of the election.
No, he was in power. You're wrong. He was in power. I will tell you, first they dislodged his government, then he joined them, and then they rigged it together.
So you blame him for the rigging?
Him, the Congress government, and the establishment, the bureaucratic establishment. They were all in tandem. You see, you have to understand one thing, Mr. Thapar. I'm a great fan of yours, but please do your research. There is not a single party that has come up during Congress regime when they were in center.
Let's go back beyond 87. You were talking about it a moment ago. In 1984, Farooq Abdullah was a popularly elected chief minister. He was removed at midnight by Jammu after Indira Gandhi had split his party, and his brother-in-law Ghulam Muhammad Shah was made chief minister instead. Yeah. Is that when the problem and the disaffection began in Kashmir, in 84?
No. Who told? He came to power after that again. Why would disaffection come? He again joined the government.
Many people say 84 is the start of the disaffection.
Mr. Dulat says that, not many people. Mr. Dulat says that. And nobody else says that.
So in your eyes,
okay, tell me
87...
How many people picked up the gun after 1984? How many people were arrested after 1984? Gun came after 1987. Pakistan tried dozens of times to push in the gun.
There was no popular anger when Farooq was removed in 84.
There was a lot of anger, manageable anger, which could have, snowballed into something, but then he joined them. So when you are joining a ministry of the same person whose you were supposed to be the victim of, where is the anger?
So you're saying to me that the real militancy, the disaffection and the political unhappiness began in 87 with the rigging of that year, not in 84?
To be very honest with you, if anybody thinks that 84 was the case, I really would recommend a good psychiatrist. Honest to God, my hand on my heart.
Is that a message directly to Mr. Dulat?
No. He is a great, to all those people. There is a group here. It's not only Mr. Dulat. Mr. Dulat is a grand old man, and a lovely person who loves Dr. Abdullah. He doesn't have any ulterior motives. But this whole clique, you tell me, don't you find it unusual that in 70 years they don't have another leader and they need to talk to one leader? Has it happened in any other part of the world? Look at Pakistan, look at Bangladesh, look at Nepal. वहाँ तो monarchy ही चली गई. Why is it persisting? There has to be something unusual.
Let's go one step beyond even 84. In 1953, Sheikh Abdullah, the man who brought Kashmir to India, was dismissed and placed under house arrest, and he spent decades under house arrest. Was that when the problem started? When a popularly elected, a man who was considered a hero in Kashmir, was removed abruptly, sent to South India and kept under house arrest? Is that when the problem started?
No, I will tell you, it started in 1947. At that time, this was a Muslim majority, Jammu Kashmir. The rules as laid down by at that time should have gone to Pakistan, and it stayed here. Now, there was a dichotomy. You also have to understand that when Mr. Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, I think, announced a hartal in 1975 against the Sheikh, there was total hartal. And the next day or a week later, when he came to Kashmir, people were on the streets. So there is a duality in everything you see in Kashmir. There is a sentiment. There was a sentiment in favor of Sheikh Saab. But at the end of the day, the roots of secession were before that, were in 47 itself.
So you're saying the problem of Kashmir goes back to 47 when it actually acceded to India, and the problem is actually rooted in the fact that Kashmir is Muslim majority but was joining a Hindu majority country. That is what you're saying, aren't you?
Yes, that is a reality, which could have been sort of, things don't stay same. Once your destiny is finally intertwined with this country, then they integrate, then they assimilate.
But when you make this point that the problem goes back to 47, are you also suggesting there's no solution? Because Kashmir will remain Muslim majority, the rest of India will remain Hindu majority. So are you saying there's no solution to the problem?
To be very honest with you, it is garbage in, garbage out. If what you collect is garbage, the solution will be garbage. There is a solution as long as, to be very honest with you, the post-retirement syndrome is stopped.
People, when you say garbage in, garbage out, who are you referring to? Be more specific.
I'm talking about the inputs that you get in Delhi. This, that 84 is the cause. That Sheikh Abdullah's arrest is the cause. These are not the causes.
The real cause is 87 and the rigging and the denial of the people's mandate.
Violence is 1987, denial of mandate, denial of democracy. I will say it wherever you want me to say it.
And Farooq Abdullah is to blame.
Farooq Abdullah and the Congress government at that time, and the bureaucracy.
Which is why Farooq Abdullah is not the solution.
He never was the solution. He never has to be the solution. Every leader is popular for 5 years, for 10 years, then they lose, then they come again. There is nothing like consistency in terms of popularity, in terms of being an answer. Kashmir problem is much bigger than all of us put together.
This is why you disagree with Mr. Dulat when he says Farooq Abdullah is the solution.
Yeah, of course. You know, I will tell you something. Now, just try to, maybe it helps you. Maybe it helps, because I'll tell you, Kashmir is the most misunderstood subject in Delhi. In 1987, when militancy erupted, you can check it. There used to be paid advertisements in all newspapers where people would say that I swear by the Holy Quran, I have nothing to do with NC. So this whole post-87 violence was against NC, which then metamorphosed into a war of secession or a struggle of secession. Okay, but basically it was essentially against the denial of democracy. So when it started, the anger was against the National Conference activists, and they were coming out in newspapers and taking an oath on Quran that we have nothing to do with NC. So the whole problem started against NC, against Dr. Saab. How can you be the solution now?
This is what you mean when you say the problem can't be the solution.
Yes, the problem can't be the solution.
Abdullahs and the NC are the problem.
Are the problem, yes.
One more question about this.
When you talk, look, I'll tell you something. Long-term problem, long-term challenge is still going to be secession. You might control it. We have pushed it underground. The current government has pushed it underground even more. But it's not died. You've not defeated violence. You've contained it. Containment is always temporary.
So now you're saying there are two problems. One is Abdullah and the NC. The other is the feeling of secession, which goes back to 47.
I'll tell you, let's not make this interview about Abdullah. No, all I'm saying is that Kashmir problem is multiplier times bigger than Abdullah's now. Dr. Sheikh Saab had a very tall stature. It shrunk today. So I don't think that there is any one political party in J&K who has the mandate or who can capture the imagination of the younger generation to actually come out and have a
Let's
solution.
come to something that you hinted at a moment ago. I want you to make it more explicit. We're moving beyond the Abdullahs. To what extent is the sentiment for secession, either to join Pakistan or to be independent, still a factor in Kashmir and a strong factor that bedevils the relationship with the rest of the country?
Well, look, I'll tell you, as on date, nobody will own it. Because if you own it, earlier on you would own it. You had the liberty to own it. You would still go to jail. This time there's a jail term, which is a longer term. So we would never know it. But to be very honest with you, they might have pushed it underground. They have controlled the violence. But that it will not erupt again. I would certainly not say that it has zero possibility of
What you're saying is that people don't talk about the sentiment of secession, but it's been pushed underground. But who knows when it will come up again?
Yeah.
Is it still there in people's hearts, even if it's not expressed?
When I say people's, I would not generalize. A percentage of the population.
What percentage?
I don't know. I don't know.
A majority?
I have no idea. Could be not. I have no idea. Because I'll tell you something.
Then how do you know this is a problem?
Of course it's a problem. We've been battling
No, if it's a minority of people that feel that way, it's not a problem.
No. Look, I'll tell you something. It's not a matter of minority or majority. All I said is that it's a matter of how many people can express it. Okay. Now, if after thousands have been jailed and around lakh are in graves, you still don't think it's a problem, then there is a problem the way you think.
Have you rebutted and refuted the main points that Mr. Dulat made, or are there other things you want to say?
No. I will tell you something. It's not about Mr. Dulat. As I told you, Dulat Saab, he must be, if he sees this
But I'm talking about the content of Mr. Dulat's interview. Are there other things you want to rebut?
Look, I'll tell you, it is this whole thing. For example, I was watching this interview, and where he says that give it to a person X, he will deliver a BJP-NC government, right? Now, if Mr. Dulat, directly or indirectly, works for a BJP-NC government, which will be a reality, mark my words, then it's good, it's a national interest. If somebody else goes, that's bad.
I'm not sure I understand what you're saying. Please be more explicit.
Right, I will tell you. For example, say person A there. For example, take me.
Yeah, let's take
All along I have been accused, he's close to BJP, usne usko chota bhai bola. What are you doing with BJP? We're all bad people. Or there is others, I won't name them because I'll just name myself. Okay. Mr. Dulat, in your interview, dreams of a BJP-NC government. So if BJP teams up with NC...
He didn't quite dream of a BJP-NC government. He said that Mr. Doval could deliver one.
That's what he meant. Even I know him. You are his friend. I'm also his friend. And I have no problem with that.
But what's the point? Come, let's get to the point you're making.
What I mean to say is that they are selective in their likes and dislikes. Anybody else apart from this family, when they go to any other extreme, they are sort of, they are spawned upon,
I don't mean to be offensive, but are you upset with what Mr. Dulat said because he didn't consider you as a factor in the future of Kashmir?
He has never considered us as a factor, for that matter, anybody else. And I want my people. Mr. Dulat is not even my voter. To be very honest with you, I have the highest regard for him. But as far as Kashmir is concerned, just hear me out. On his watch, this all started. The least he could do for the respect of those who are in the graves is not to discuss Kashmir and become an expert. सर थोड़ा सा आप भी बता दीजिए ना कि एक बंदा जब था या ये बंदे थे तब शुरू हुआ 1 लाख लोग मरा और आप बात ही नहीं करना चाहते कि जिनने शुरू किया how can they be experts?
You're saying that because Mr. Dulat was posted in Kashmir in the Intelligence Bureau in 87 when that rigging of the election happened, Mr. Dulat also has a level of responsibility.
All of them are Kashmir experts, 2 or 3 or 4 names, all of them are involved. And I wouldn't want to name them. They are all involved, right? Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you something. Tell me one thing. If you know about a surgeon who has botched up 10 operations, would you go there? Be honest.
The surgeon being the equivalent of Farooq Abdullah.
Or anybody else. Similarly, these people, this cabal that is here, right, who have messed up Kashmir, now have the audacity to deliver sermons on Kashmir. And one more thing. Name one day since 1989 when a Kashmiri has not been humiliated or killed or maimed, injured.
I have to.
मेरा ये कहने का मतलब है ये सब इस हमाम में सब नंगे हैं.
Okay.
They are all
you-
equally
you
responsible.
ventilated-
When they are in when they are in power, they will go to any extent.
Sajad, you ventilated what people will see as your anger and frustration very fully. It's only fair that you should. You wanted to refute, you wanted to rebut what Mr. Dulat has said, and I thought you have a right to do so, which is why I readily agreed. Let's now look down the road to the future. It's 9 years since the last state election in Jammu and Kashmir. It was in 2014. How essential is an immediate and early election to sorting out the present problem?
Very urgent. People are desperate for democracy. And let us also, this government should also know, rather than sitting back on their laurels and patting themselves on the back, that the whole problem erupted with the denial of democracy in 1987. And if they deny it for 9 years, whether you do it by rigging or whether by not holding elections, the results will not
So
be
holding elections is the critical first step,
most critical.
and it should be as soon as possible.
Any day, and let anybody come.
What about restoration of statehood? The Modi government has promised it will happen, but it hasn't indicated when. How important is restoration of statehood?
Somebody who had a special status, it's so humiliating to talk that now you are a UT. And I told you in the last interview out here, I will just narrate a simple thing. I was once in Khan Market and I met an MP of not Congress, but another regional party, very, very big regional party. And he told me, "Hi, how are you?" We were at a shop. So he introduced me to him. And he said, "I had come to Kashmir. Just hear me out." And I said, "Oh, good." He said, "Thoda hospitals mein utna acha kaam nahi hua hai." I said, "How do you?" He said, "I'm on the committee in the parliament which goes to UTs to look at this thing." And I sighed, and he said, "Why did you sigh so badly?" I said, "So you have accepted our UT status. Why didn't you say I will not go? The people of Kashmir are competent to deliver." All these Congress MPs, Samajwadi MPs, Trinamool Congress MPs, why don't they say we will not go?
Tell me something.
Now, why don't you answer me on this?
But-
Why isn't there an all India unanimity that Kashmiris can look after, are competent to run their affairs? We will not go there.
Is restoration of statehood important before elections, or can it happen after?
Now, not even for a day. I would say 370. Why not?
So both early elections and restoration of statehood must happen immediately.
And there should be some national consensus on it. Kashmiris should not feel alone, right? We are alone. Apart from noises that everybody makes, nobody is coming to help us. When I say nobody, means nobody.
When elections are held, will Sajad Lone and the People's Conference fight on their own, or might you consider doing so in alliance with other parties?
No, we'll fight on our own. We'll not. Look, I'll tell you something. There is no vote transfer in Kashmir. The individual is bigger than the party in most of the cases, which is not the case in rest of India. So if you think that you will add 1 + 1 and make it 2, it
doesn't work.
It doesn't work there. So,
But you were briefly part of the Gupkar alliance. Is that chapter closed forever?
Yeah, it is.
I mean, after what you said about Farooq Abdullah, I imagine it's closed forever, but I just thought I'd double check.
No, forever, of course. I would never team with them, and I'm not going to team with anybody.
Given your thoughts and your views about Farooq Abdullah and the NC, why did you join the Gupkar alliance?
Look, I'll tell you, at that moment, we had just come out of a jail, and there was a certain level of idealism. And I will not point a finger at anybody. I talked about history. I thought that my idealism was misplaced, and I came out. And
So that was a mistake.
And Gupkar Alliance is not the God's word for me.
But that was a mistake you made.
No. Where is it today?
No.
Well, okay, where is it today?
No, I'm saying joining the Gupkar
No,
alliance
it was
was
not.
a mistake.
It was an experience. What did we do? We didn't commit any sins.
Let's come back to the elections. If you're determined to fight on your own, would you consider afterwards allying once again with the PDP? After all, you were part of Mufti Saab's government, you were part of Mehbooba's government. Would you ally with PDP again to form a government?
The next government will be BJP and NC. Just mark my words, we will all be in the opposition. You can record it now.
What Mr. Dulat said,
I would
Mr.
love to
Doval
be-
can deliver, you believe is going to be the outcome?
Yes. You see, I will tell you one thing. They will create noises. The scenario before elections they will paint everybody as with BJP, right? and consider themselves anti-BJP, get some seats, and then sit with them, as they have done in the past.
So in other words, the NC
Okay,
will
tell
fight.
me one thing.
You're saying, I'm just clarifying. You're saying the NC will fight the elections as an opponent of BJP. Everyone else will be painted as allies of the BJP. But after the results are out,
Yeah, they will.
NC and BJP will get together.
Okay, tell me one
Is that
thing.
what you're saying?
Yes, yes. I want to tell you one thing. When Mr. Rahul Gandhi came for Bharat Jodo Yatra, he was wearing a t-shirt. It was very cold. Our Prince Charming, Mr. Omar Abdullah, also wore a t-shirt to look like his twin. He has been disqualified. Have they issued a single statement? You didn't notice that? No, they did not issue a single statement. Shouldn't it be news? But no. Entire Delhi, this setup that I'm talking, are focused on. Everybody else is bad. And
You're saying that things like what you call the failure to issue a statement when Rahul Gandhi was disqualified from parliament is a sign that the NC behind closed doors is actually allied with the BJP silently and quietly. That's what you're saying.
I did not say that. You said that.
But you're suggesting it. I'm asking it.
I said that in minus temperature, he was wearing a t-shirt to look like a
No,
twin.
why is it so important?
And after that,
no, why is it so important that the NC didn't issue a statement? That's the point I'm asking you.
I don't know.
What does it show?
You should ask them.
No, I'm asking you. You made the point. What does it show?
They've been confabulating with them for the last 1 year. See, this is all,
What do you mean by confabulating?
They are in touch with them. They are always with them. When they were never out of touch. When were they out of touch?
How do you know they've been in touch with them?
At least I'm also in politics. You are in journalism. It's our duty to smell around and see what's happening across.
So, आप कह रहे हैं कि छुपके behind closed doors, the NC and the BJP have got a rishta going.
Look, I'll tell you one thing. If I call the Home Minister or the Prime Minister, I might get a call back after 6 months or maybe a year. They are there always. They are first of all, he's in the parliament, he can meet them. Or did you also not see that in the meeting which the opposition boycotted, the sole person who went there was Dr. Farooq Abdullah. Nobody else went
I
there.
mean, at the Speaker's office over coffee.
Yeah. Did you not even notice that? Point is, साहब हम थोड़ा करें ना. आप तो हमारे गले की बच्चे की जान लेने
there?
जाते
I
हो.
thought I saw him in the picture.
No, he was there. He was the only person who went.
Mr. Kharge was there.
नहीं खड़गे साहब नहीं गए सर, गलत बात है आपको. फिर गलत, we are talking of a separate event, आप चेक कराइएगा. सबने बाइकआउट किया.
Except for Farooq Abdullah.
Yeah. And you missed it.
Tell me this. Is there a possibility of Sajad Lone and the People's Conference allying with the BJP to form the next government?
No, we will not. They will not take us, we will not go. Right? But
even if they reach out, you will say no?
ये reach out सर सबको करते हैं सब. Everybody is not on sale. कैसी बात कर रहे हैं? ऐसा नहीं है
But
क्या?
you were part of
आपने
a
पूछ दिया
but you
मैं.
were part of a government that
Look,
involved the
I'll tell you
BJP.
I will tell you something. I am a victim of 87. सुनिए पूरी बात. I am a victim of 87 and I mark my words. If I had not gone to meet the Prime Minister, they would never have allowed me to win one seat. Not even one seat. Why? Because I was Abdul Ghani Lone's son who was a separatist. Period. मैं गया अपनी मजबूरी की वजह से. Right?
तो वो मजबूरी आज नहीं है?
अभी तक आपने नहीं, अब वो मजबूरी गई. Now I am into mainstream. धुल गए. At that time it was no.
So you're saying वो मजबूरी तब की थी 2014-15 की थी, आज वो मजबूरी नहीं रही.
Yeah, because now I am a part of mainstream, accepted. At that time, it was the first time I was fighting assembly election.
So you're also saying that there is no question of your joining the BJP after the next election.
No.
Joining with, not joining, but joining with, allying with.
No. You see, I'll tell you something.
But I mean, I'm saying no or yes?
I said no.
Categoric no.
Categoric no.
You won't change your mind.
No, I won't change my mind.
Let's then come to the last subject I want to raise with you. It's something you made me aware of just before we started this interview, which is why I've deliberately left it to the end. You also wanted to comment on what Satya Pal Malik, the former governor of Jammu and Kashmir, said to me in an interview roughly 14 days ago. He has been quoted, not in my interview, but in newspapers, to say that you had got in touch with him wanting the dissolution of the assembly to be postponed or withheld because you thought you could form a government. You claim that's not true.
No, I called him from London. I was in London at that time. When I found out, I called him. I said, sir, you please don't dissolve the assembly. And he said, pressure है, आपके पास MLA नहीं है, किसी के पास MLA नहीं है. I said, सर एक चीज़ याद रखना, अगर assembly आज dissolve हो गई, मुझे नहीं दिखता हमारे होते ये कभी फिर reconstitute होगी. These are the words I will. He said, do you have the numbers? I said, I don't have the numbers. 6-7 होंगे सर, लेकिन टाइम दे, डिले करिए, किसी और से बनवाइए सर, लेकिन डिसॉल्व नहीं करना. आप याद रखिएगा ये फिर रिकॉन्स्टिट्यूट नहीं होगी.
उन्होंने क्या कहा?
He said, I will, he said, I will see the law, but he was in favor of dissolution. There is no doubt. He wanted to have.
Were you aware at that time that Mehbooba Mufti had allegedly got the support of both Congress and the National Conference, and therefore she had 56 out of 87?
Look,
were you aware of that?
He also says in that interview that that National Conference was calling me, ki dissolve kar do, right? Even we knew that this is all a facade, they want to dissolve. So I never took that story seriously, that they are going to go together. They just want to go in there and dissolve it. And for some reason, I had this hunch that if they dissolve it, it's going to be a disaster.
But on what basis, if you didn't have the numbers yourself, could you have tried to persuade the governor not to dissolve?
अरे साहब सीधे बोल दिया गलती हो गई, बच्चे की जान लोगे क्या? अरे सीधे बोल दिया उसको कि वेट करो, डिसॉल्व मत करो. It might be a problem. Is it a sin? And now भी हो गई आपकी 9, अब हो गए 5 साल. Recon shoot तो हो नहीं रही है. If I had seen it, if I was far-sighted, are you going to punish me for that? I saw it, I could see that it's never going to be reconstituted. Even today, I don't see it getting reconstituted very soon. They are enjoying it. उनको तो मजा आ रहा है. They're really enjoying it. I don't think they're going to leave it so soon.
There were two other things that Mr. Malik said that have attracted enormous national attention. First, about Pulwama. Was there a security lapse? Was there an intelligence lapse?
I have no idea. I mean, we would never have any idea what happened.
Because you were in Kashmir at the time.
I was in Kashmir. I am a Kashmiri, and the best thing for me is to shut up. He is a non-Kashmiri. He can get away with murder. We can't. So we just keep quiet. अब मेरा भी जो है ना मुझे let us not discuss on the हमें कहाँ से मालूम पड़ेगा? How would we know what happened there?
The other thing he said is that the Prime Minister is ill-informed about Kashmir. When I asked him if he meant ignorant, he clearly seemed to agree with that as well. So, do you accept that the Prime Minister is ill-informed and ignorant about Kashmir?
When I have met him, to be very honest, I found him very well informed. Very well informed. I don't want to say it. He talked about a certain thing which was about violence, in which he had personally intervened and ensured that justice is delivered. And I was surprised. How does he know about this? And I asked him how.
Can you give us details?
I should not.
Go on, because it would be a refutation of what.
No,
I
don't want to. I don't want to.
The Prime Minister would be very pleased if you gave the details, because you would be.
I don't want him to be
refuting the claim he's ill-informed and ignorant.
I don't want to. But to be very honest, I have not met him many times. Contrary to what people think, I have met him 3-4 times. But he's very well informed. Not very. I mean, say he is well informed. Whenever he talked to me, I thought he knows a lot. He knows the names of the officers also. And I get surprised at times, how does he know these names?
And he also knew something to do with was it security issue or violence issue?
Whatever it was, but...
It was a violence issue.
I asked him, how do you know so much? And apparently he has parallel sources of information. That's what I'm saying. A non-official.
And this was an issue to do with violence?
It was an issue to do with violence in which some Kashmiri young men, 2 had been killed in Chadura. This is, I think, around 2014, yeah.
When he had just become Prime Minister?
Yeah, he had ensured. And the current stance of the government that they have, I get surprised at times.
What about...
Because at that time, he came across very soft.
My last question. What about the issues of corruption that Mr. Malik alluded to in the interview? The CBI at the moment is questioning him about that. It is to do with a insurance scheme for government servants, and secondly, a particular hydroelectric power project.
Mr. Thapar, I'm so happy you asked this question, and at least as a Kashmiri, I could at least express my views. You know, the favorite hobby of Indians in the last 5 years has been to describe how corrupt the Kashmiri is, right? There's been so much of corruption, and then the BJP guys have come with their non-corruption swords and, finished corruption there. Point is, we are a very small economy. Our whole budget is around $2 or $3 billion. India is ranked very high in the corruption leagues by institutions by most credible institutions.
But Mr. Malik wasn't talking about Kashmiris being corrupt. He was talking about people in the system trying to bribe him to clear a project that shouldn't be. He even named people, which I won't name, but he named 3 people.
Mr. Thapar, is it a sin if I want to clear the name of Kashmiris? आप वो बताइए ना, वो क्या बोलेगा अपना मलिक साहब, वो कल मुकर भी जाएंगे. But मैं ये कह रहा हूँ कि ये जो आपने ये corruption का लगाया है कश्मीरी के बारे में, this scheme, to the best of my knowledge that I know, was dead even when we were in government. I don't know what he's talking about, but it was dead when we were in government. We knew this scheme.
When you say this scheme, which one do you mean?
It was that health insurance scheme.
It was dead even when you were in
When
government.
we were in government, we knew it will never take off. My hand on my heart. We knew it will never take off. But maybe they might have revived it later on. That's a different thing. But in our times, it was a slow starter. As far as power projects is concerned, I don't know. Power projects usually tend to have a lot of kickbacks, across the country. And I'm sure there must have been there also. But I have no idea because
But the main point you're making is that the health insurance scheme was dead even when you were in government. There was no need for the governor, Mr. Malik, to take action to kill it off further because it was already dead.
it was already dead. Someone must have revived it. Because in our times, it was a joke. कि ये कर रहे हैं, नहीं होगा.
So it's possible someone revived it after your government fell and Mr. Malik
It
pushed
was
it a
not
second
officially
time.
dead. It was not. It was a slow starter. Nobody was pushing for it. It was there, one of the things. And the normal this thing was that it won't see the light of the day. It is getting delayed. It's getting this. So that was the thing.
Let me end this interview by summing up what I think are the two most important things you said. Number one, the belief that Farooq Abdullah and the National Conference can be the future of Kashmir and the solution to Kashmir is one you completely disagree with. They are the problem. The problem in Kashmir started with the 87 election. One of the people responsible for the rigging of that election is Farooq Abdullah. He cannot be the solution. And the second thing which you said, which I think will linger in people's memories, is that the Prime Minister is very well informed. He has parallel sources of information about Kashmir. He surprised you in one particular instance to do with violence when he seemed to know so much about people, down to knowing the names of the people who were affected. In other words, you there are refuting the claim made by Satya Pal
I'm
Malik.
talking, look, I'll tell you, don't put words in my mouth.
I'm not putting words.
I am narrating one incident. I have met the Prime Minister only 3 times.
No, but you
I'm
made
narrating one incident, and yes, I was surprised at that time. How does he know so much?
And as you said,
and he even knew the name of the local officer. That's what I was surprised
And this is a refutation, it seems to everyone, of Malik's claim that he's ill-informed.
No, वो उनका अपना है. I can't compare the two. But when I met him, he seemed very, that was the first meeting, in fact. And I was surprised. The second, and then I met him, I think 2 or 3 times overall. He has names of the officers, other things.
He's always come across as well-informed.
I don't agree with a single thing that his government is doing. But in his meeting, whenever I have met him, he had a lot of information.
On all the meetings you've had with the PM, he's been well-informed. He's been well-informed.
He knew the name of the IGP, name of the SSP there, and I was a bit taken aback. How does he know so much? So
okay. That's very clear. Sajad Lone, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Karan Thapar. Over the last few years, I hope you've been watching my program, The Interview on the Wire. During that period, I've interviewed doctors, politicians, businessmen, scientists, authors, and even the occasional Nobel laureate. For me, it's been exciting. I hope it's been enjoyable for you. But these, as you know, are tough times, and if this program is going to remain bold, independent, and sometimes even defiant, then I think we need your support. At the end of the day, it's a truism, but editorial independence is best defended by the viewers. So if you would like this program to remain the way it is, forthright, outspoken, and interesting, then would you consider supporting us? All you have to do is to click on the description at the bottom. But more than anything else, I hope you will continue to watch the interview. Your viewership means an awful lot to me.